questions. Did you have any questions about the stuff that you saw inside?
I'm trying to find him some shade, okay?
Find me some shade.
Calm down.
That Agent Orange at all?
Yes, 14 years ago, I developed prostate cancer. It was presumption Agent Orange because I was pretty healthy. And then 2009, I had a heart attack. Presumption Agent Orange. It's called ischemic heart disease. So I was in the I Corps. Do you know how Vietnam was laid out? It was 1, 2, 3, 4 Corps from the DMZ to South Vietnam. They called the one Corps the I Corps, like Roman numeral I. And I was in the I Corps for 13 months. I was in Marine Corps, and Marine Corps served 13 months. Everybody else served 12. I don't know why, but that's just the way it was. I went through boot camp. I was a sophomore at the University of Richmond. The second person to get killed from Charlottesville was a boyhood friend of mine. And so I just broken up with a girlfriend and wasn't doing well in school. And when this friend of mine got killed, I said, I've got to do something. So I quit school, joined the Marine Corps on a 2-year program, special 2-year program, going to Vietnam because they needed bodies. And I thought, well, I'll take my chances and do that and make it back and go back to school and get on with my life. And I was lucky enough to make it. Go back to school. But when I went back to school, 1969, when I left school in '66, we were wearing coats and ties. When I went back to school, they were wearing t-shirts and flip-flops. It's changed drastically the young people about the war in Vietnam. Rightfully so. It was a bad war for us. It was a political war, unfortunately, instead of a military war. And we could have won it if we had kept going the way we were going, but the politicians and the media didn't allow us to. So they were really giving us a bad time being over there, and some of the atrocities that took place that were unfortunate. War is hell, as they say. Bad things happen, people get killed. But I think we did the best we could to contain communism from spreading in Southeast Asia and that whole part of the world. And that was really what we accomplished, I think, that we stifled it from spreading. But anyway, to answer your question, everybody was affected by Agent Orange because they were spraying that stuff. As some of the pictures you saw in there, how they were spraying it from planes. It was in the water on ships. People handling it were getting it, were ingesting it, and probably 85% of the people in Vietnam had some kind of cause of Agent Orange in their lifetime. So it was a terrible thing. They were spraying that stuff everywhere. They never thought about giving us masks. Thank you very much. So, any other questions?
I have one question. Do you know why it was called Agent Orange? Was there like...
Don't really know. There's a certain name for the herbicide. It's a long name, so they just named it Agent Orange. And they painted orange on all the cans so you knew what it was. But that's a good question. I'll have to look that up. I'll have to Google that. You know?
I wasn't expecting that long of an answer for the first question.
I'm sorry.
So, just so that we might be going over some of the same stuff we just talked about.
Okay.
The living conditions for air crews in Vietnam were pretty good, especially for us because we flew at night and we slept in the daytime. So we were housed in various...
So, do you have any like stories or memories of your like training experience?
I think they showed you when you first went in the museum, the training. I went to Paris Island, regular boot camp, and then went through Camp Lejeune.
Sorry, hold on.
Well, when
world
we
of
were
high tech.
flying the trail in Laos to interdict trucks that were flying, we take the supplies to the south. We did it.
Did you guys get to go in the command post in the back of the museum?
When
It was up the ladder?
Yeah.
Did you see the typewriters in there? Did you know what a typewriter was?
roll off the target. And,
A lot of you have never seen a typewriter.
Lots of slide rules. So were they using those for the maps or calculations?
roll in
Yeah, slide rules too was what I grew up with. Rather than calculators, we didn't have calculators. You know, calculators really came about 1971, 72. You had mechanical calculators, but not electronic calculators. So I got into a 2-year program to back up a little bit, and quit school in '66. Was in from 66 to 69, or actually 68. I went to Vietnam in June of '67 and came back in July of '68. Again, 13 months. It was the tour for the Marine Corps. So a lot of terrible things. You talk about PTSD. You hear a lot about that, these guys coming back from Afghanistan and so forth. We all had PTSD, but they didn't designate it as PTSD. Basically what it is memories of horrible things that you saw, firefights I was in, killing people, seeing people getting killed, friends getting killed. You don't forget that kind of stuff. Even now, it's 52 years later since I was there. Still, visual memories will never go away. It's just a matter of handling it differently. Some people can handle it better than others. Some people had better network, a support network when they came back, had a good family network, friends network. Some people didn't have that. So there's some serious things going on with some people that haven't been addressed properly. Hopefully we're addressing it better and better as we go forward in the current VA improved system. It's not going to happen overnight, but hopefully we're going in the right direction to make improvements for our young guys and girls coming along. Question?
Going back to training, what did you feel was the biggest difference between the training and the actual thing?
In the Marine Corps, you had really good discipline training, and I actually went through language school. I was pulled out of my normal training because I had a couple years of college, as they pulled several of us out, maybe 10 or 12 of us, and ended up going to Vietnamese language school in Monterey, California. It's called DLI, Defense Language Institute. It's one of the 2 language schools in the world that the military have. And they teach over 50 languages at these schools. And I ended up taking Vietnamese course. And then when I went over, I became an interpreter, Vietnamese interpreter scout. I was in a scouting unit, 4 scouts to a battalion. So we would translate documents if we captured documents, we would interrogate prisoners if we captured prisoners. It was a special role that I didn't perceive when I went in, because I was an 0311, it's called a grunt basic infantry rifleman. And then I got this other MOS designation as a scout Vietnamese interpreter after language school. So I was kind of an elite person in the unit because they treated us like, I was enlisted, they treated us like officers because of our specialty. So it was a neat thing that I got involved with, which I had no idea was going that direction when I first went through my training. But the training was probably above normal in the Marine Corps. I think it's better than the Army. It's more disciplined, it's more accurate, and it's survival tactics that they teach us. I don't think was as strict in the Army as they were in the Marine Corps. Next.
So when you're in Vietnam, like, what did you do in like your free time, or like what were you doing most of the time?
Well, I was in the field the whole 13 months, so you didn't have any free time. You're a soldier. You're surviving. You're out there in the boonies, like up there in that field. You're either marching, you're chasing the enemy, or you're encamped, staging. I used to get reports from the divisional headquarters in the rear every day about where the enemy was sighted yesterday. So we'd take out a map and say, hey, the enemy was sighted over here, so let's go that direction. So we were on the move constantly. Every night you had to dig in, because if they knew where you were, and they always knew where you were, they would mortar you, and just to try to kill us. And you had to dig a foxhole every time you stopped. Even if you only marched 3 miles one day, you still had to dig a foxhole for that night, because if you were above ground and they mortared you, the shrapnel was flying everywhere. So you needed to be below ground. So that was tough. So we didn't have any free time. We were just constantly on the run, looking for the enemy. They weren't chasing us, we were chasing them.
How were you and your peers' relationships with higher officers, higher ranked officers? Were they?
Being that I had the specialty of like a language interpreter, the officers treated me like an officer. The above-ranking officers were very, very good to us as enlisted because we were the majority of the people, and we were the ones who protected the officers. So they were in charge as far as making decisions of what to do and what not to do. But we had utmost respect for them, and I think they had utmost respect for us. We were treated properly. And it wasn't anything to do with, I mean, you were courteous, yes sir, no sir, whatever, but you didn't go by rank per se, because you didn't wear your rank, because you didn't want anybody to know, the enemy to know what rank you were. If they knew you were an officer, then they probably, handled you differently than if you were enlisted, if you got captured, let's say. So you didn't wear your rank around, but people knew who the officers were, and they knew who we were, what rank we were. Like I said, they used to leave me alone because of my language specialty. And I used to set up patrols every day to take, they'd let me do what I wanted to do. I need 20 guys. I want to go out on patrol over here today. It's a 2-mile radius or 3 miles or whatever. So that's what I would do every day. Or my scouts. We'd each take one day and go out and look for the enemy. You saw the Claymore mines inside. We'd put those out around our encampment every night so that if we saw the enemy coming over or you could hear them coming, the claymores would shoot. They would spray like at an angle like this. This is the front of it where it's curved. It would spray at an angle like that in the front. So you'd put them around, and so you protect them from getting overrun or whatever.
Did you have anything to cope with whenever you felt really strong emotions, if you felt sad or?
Well, you were scared the whole time. It's kind of like an adrenaline rush. That's really what kept us going. You're in the bush, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's behind those trees, so you're on a high alert the whole time. You don't have time to think about too much except survival. And protecting. The key to the whole thing is that we were brothers. When you go in the service, you form a brotherhood with these guys, girls, and that you can't understand if you haven't served. It's like, some of the guys that I still talk to 50 years later, to this day, are closer to me than my real brothers. I have 2 other brothers. One was a Marine, one was in the Air Force. But these guys that I served with are closer to me than a lot of these other people, real brothers and so forth. But you find you have a bond that's very special and it never goes away. It's a lifelong bond. That's why today I would hope that maybe more younger people would want to serve, because it's a special experience that you're never going to get through life. And it's a chance to go to school, get some training in a certain area, like the Air Force. If I were to do it again, I'd probably not go in the Marine Corps because, who wants to go to battle? I'd rather go to a school and learn something, like an accounting school. The Air Force has great schools. So, if you think about doing something like that, joining the service, I would look for something that has a school or a trade that you can latch on to for future life. Why not? Let the government pay for it. They have great schools around. So the kids today, I think they're missing some things. Not all kids, but if you have to serve, I'd hate to have to see you serve in war, although that's where we are right now. It's a sad thing to have to go to war when you're young and maybe lose your life. We had, there's 58,315 people on the wall in Washington. 58,351. So these people lost their lives for really nothing. We tried to do some things, but I'd hate to be their parents saying, hey, raised a son till he was 20 and then he went off and got killed. It's a really sad thing to go through the rest of your life dealing with that. As I had a lot of good friends too. Matter of fact, I'm going to see a guy who one of my scouts, we were going on a patrol one day, and I used to like to walk point. I don't know why. I was young and stupid, you know, not knowing how dangerous it was. You know, you're the first one out there. If anybody's going to get shot, it's going to be you. But that's what Point did. He went out there to see where the enemy was and stopped the patrol behind him. Hey, get down, whatever. And I was supposed to walk point one day, and one of my guys really wanted to walk point. My lieutenant said, hey, I want you with me because we got the radio guy with me, and just in case. And we went out on this patrol one day, and this guy got killed. So I, had a lot of problems with that because it should have been me, and it could have been me. But people said, hey, it wasn't you, so you get over it. Still, I think about that to this day. And every 4th of July, I go to California to visit his grave.